Hey everyone, Mark and Joey here on a Saturday morning, and Joey's Saturday usually means football. We just did both of our football shows. Our wrap up of the games coming up this week, and our pool show and our sports wagering show, where we tell you how we make money and give you those bets every week. But it was interrupted by a hockey story, a big one, not only in the world of hockey because he's the best restricted free agent who's left out there, but also personally because it's Toronto. If you're new to our show, we're from Ontario, Canada here. Toronto Maple Leafs in the hockey world are our team. So this was a big move today. Mitch Marner finally signed. We were worried that we were going into camp without him. We found out last year with Nylander, you wait till Christmas, the guy plays like crap. And he did last year, so they wanted to get Marner in camp. They've done that deal. However, there's a number of things that this has caused now inside the Leafs, but in the league as well, Joey.
Well, first off, thank God it's over. I can't stand any more news about this goddamn guy. I'm sorry. It's just been driving me nuts. But anyways, it is done now. It bothers a lot of teams because they went above the number really they wanted to give him, and now the Leafs have 4 players.
Probably by $1.5 million, probably.
Yeah, and then they now, per year. I mean, they really now have 4 guys to take up half their cap.
$40 million, 4 guys.
They only got $41 million left, so I know it's going to be conflicting around the NHL, find out what to do, but in the Leafs, you have so much pressure to keep these stars, especially someone who's homegrown. Really at the end of the day, no one would have cared if Nylander went. He's Swedish, first of all. He had a good year, but, if he left, I don't think it would have bothered anybody. But Marner, guy who grew up here, played his whole life here, drafted here, and honestly has led the team in points both years and wants to be here more than anybody else. They had to really get him done. They couldn't let him leave. It reminds me of, might have been alive, but I don't remember, was Wendell Clark being traded for Matt Sundin, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the difference. If you kept Nylander and then lost your Canadian, it's kind of like, what? So, they had to get done, but the league is not going to be happy. There's a lot of money to a guy that you're basically saying is your third best player, and he's making, close to what your top 2 players are making. It's hard to really build a team around that. You got Tavares already up there in a huge contract. Matthews a contract.
Yeah, but
it's very interesting.
Here's what I got to tell you, Joey, because you're not even close to old enough. I was watching in 1967, the last time the Leafs won a cup. The Raptors won this year. Bianca won the U.S. Open in tennis. The pressure is on the Leafs, and they need to make this deal. And one thing people forget is Brady Anderson and Riley, I think it is, are still tied up for 3 more years. So this is the 3-year period. They can spend this money. They'll have to go at the end of 3 years for somebody. At that point, they won't be able to make the cap. But they need to win in the next 3 years. They needed to do this. The city needs it, wants it. This cup has to come our way. In the next 3 years, we've got the players to do that. And I'll refer you back to Chicago, where they had those key guys. Every Stanley Cup team has to have that key core. Well, we've got this key core now for 6 years if we can afford it, but we got it. But the next 3, when we can't afford it, for sure we have really one of the best teams. And even though Boston gets in our way, it seems every year, our guys are getting older every year too.
So on the positive side, I agree with you there. First of all, you have to have a core. There's no doubt about it. In this NHL, you got to have good goaltenders, good forwards, good D. It's just the way it is. Also, on the positive side, I will look at it. Yeah, you got 3 perfect years here. You got to get something done. Yeah. And if you do, though, guess what that also brings? Guys willing to take discounts then. The Leafs haven't done that yet. They haven't even made a cup run yet for guys to take discounts. So, if you are the Toronto Maple Leafs, if you can make a run over the next 3 years, even win a cup, like Chicago, you get guys then to take those discounts because they go, okay, now this is a cup-winning team. When they signed Tavares and Kane, they thought it was crazy back then. But then you see all these guys wanting to play with Kane and Taves because they were winning cups.
Yeah.
They had a chance. But more importantly, you're all right also in the situation that, you can find guys, kind of veterans. You see someone like Jason Spezza, $1 million for a veteran guys, it's going to be a good third liner.
That's who helps these young guys.
Yeah, and you're going to get some defenses, like some guys who's like 34, 35, might not be able to play the most minutes on the team. That has to go to Riley and Muzzin, but will be a good second line.
Look what Marlowe did for us for a couple of years, right? Fairly cheap.
Good
player.
And he was even a little up there, truthfully, for a guy that age, but he was very big guy we got.
But cheap when you're spending $10, $11 million on your young guys. So
and we weren't spending that then. That's why we gave him the money we did. But yes, you're right. So, there's ways around it. I just think, obviously this all started with the bad Nylander deal that pissed off Marner because they assumed he was going to take a discount. But I do agree with you. You got 3 years here, make some runs, impress people, get some guys to take some discounts in the future, and then get some veterans to fiddle around these younger guys. I think Anderson will be gone those 3 years, so we got to use them up now. Not necessarily because of money, but I think because he's going to be hurt, he plays a lot of
older.
games, he'll be older. So, do something with Freddie Anderson. I like him back there. You're going to have to get a new goaltender in my mind in 3 years. Also, guys, the Marlies are really, really good, and Kyle Dubas knows that better than anyone because he used to GM the Marlies, now he's GM of the Maple Leafs, and is always watching.
You can bring
Marlies.
any player from there for $1 million.
Oh my God!
So
and they're playing amazing.
You got a team that's in their cup every year, and you can bring any of those players up for $1 million. So the other thing, I think Dubas is smart. I think the Leafs are smart. I know the rest of the guys in the league are saying, "What are you doing, giving this kind of money?" First of all, Marner's the best winger in the league, but he's certainly the best winger, maybe the best player on our team. So you have to give up this money to make sure. Here's what I like about it. I was of the day when you had the same team all the time. When you're fans, I like this 6 and 7 year contracts because the world's gone nuts at free agency. I can't even stand basketball. And it's nice we won, but it's one star comes in for a period of time and leaves, and they force trades, and all this kind of stuff is happening in that sport. Football is so many players change hands every year. It's ridiculous. So I love the fact they're signing these players to long-term contracts. I feel that our young kids in the city can now attach themselves to 4 great players that can be their heroes of the time. I had that when I was younger. However, most of the Maple Leaf teams that you've lived through in your 22 years have been in and out all the time, trading, getting rid of players, bringing new players in. It's been all this. So I'm stoked about the next 3 years minimum and maybe longer that our kids are going to have fantastic players to follow each and every year and have a chance to win the cup. I think it's coming. And this is a great move in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think a cup's coming too, and I think that it is good to have all these players locked up. And Marner, especially to me, because we're passionate about our Canadians here, obviously in Canada, and it'd be nice to actually have the best Canadian maybe in the league on your team. So that was just a huge deal. I think you're right. I think that's all good stuff. The captaincy's also, they said, is going to come out by the end of the week here too. That'll be very interesting. I think he'll probably end up
going. Which, by the way, it's stupid if it's not Tavares.
Yeah, I don't
think giving it to these young guys. It's ruined McDavid and that team in my mind.
Well, I agree with you there. I mean, it's worked in other places. Obviously, Crosby being a young captain, Taves being a young captain, Gabriel Landeskog being a young captain. Although this team has some veterans.
But those guys were true stars within that team when they went there, in my mind, anyway.
Anyways, so we'll go to Matthews because if you give Matthews the captaincy, it makes it better. But I must say, Matthews has been very vocal about the fact that he hates rumors about him leaving, even after a 5-year deal that he just signed. He wants to stay here. He's best friends with Marner. So that was also a key component, is what I was getting to before someone continues to get upset about who should be the captain, is that, these guys are friends.
Yeah.
And as long as they keep signing together, they feel like they got this going forward, and they got a great chance here. So, that's the other thing. When you build a team, you have to have good chemistry, because when players like each other, they stay. You've seen in football with Edelman and Brady. Edelman could be gone, no problem, but you built this good repertoire between quarterback and receiver. Well, you build a good friendship, Marner, Matthews, and add Riley to that mix, please. You keep those 3 going forward. You're right. Good chance for Leafs going forward, bringing some excitement. We don't know what's going on with all these other teams, the Jays, Raptors, whatever. We need the Leafs step up. Please, 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 just get to the second round.
I think we're the longest sports franchise right now without in our case, a cup winner. But
I just want to be
whatever
Boston
it might be.
one time.
Yeah, exactly. Past the first round. So we believe that's going to happen now. I will mention one other thing that I think Dubas is working on, which is smart. They talked about the cap going up this year. It didn't do what it was supposed to do.
I know.
I think in the next 3 or 4 years, these contracts might look cheap. So I think the cap is going to go up.
Well,
I think the money continues to grow every year. I think locking these guys up for 6 years of this money, next year it might have been 12 and 13 and 14. It's just going to get bigger and bigger. Hockey's growing in the United States, leaps and bounds.
The league has big decisions
I think there's going to be some of that involved, but I think the cap's going to get bigger, and I think Dubas is counting on it. But he's also counting on that Marley team, which is so good, bringing in players that cheap money.
He is counting on the Marley team. Also, if he's doing anything, he's pushing it. He's pushing the envelope of a bigger cap, because he's going I've just signed my 4 biggest players to half my cap. That's what I think he's partially doing as well. He's trying to tell the league, I gotta pay these guys this money. You gotta do something for me here. Otherwise, all these teams are gonna lose their stars really fast. And that's why I did the unrestricted free agency. But now you're realizing players are willing to sit too. So it's this back and forth. We'll see what happens here. Hopefully it all works out in the end for us hometown Leaf fans, because God knows we need it. So, anyways, if the captaincy comes out, we'll also do a show on that. But this is our Marner talk. We're pretty happy overall.
Hey, good luck to the rest of the GMs. It's your problem that you have to pay more money. We don't care in Toronto here. We've got the money. We've got a really smart GM guy. He's a mathematician. Some guys don't like that,
he's
right?
He's figuring it out.
He's got this figured out cap-wise. He's confident, and so we're good by it. That's it. Marner, signed, sealed, delivered. Maple Leafs in the Cup this year, which, by the way, would be the greatest TV that the NHL's ever seen if the Leafs make a run to the Cup, especially if they can play Las Vegas,
Yes,
which is our
Leafs versus
which is
Vegas.
going to be our other pick once we get to choosing the Stanley Cup before the season starts. But there you go, Toronto Maple Leafs, big day here in Toronto.